pulsating bass thudded through the walls of the club, the air electric with the energy of the crowd. Olivia Cooper leaned against the bar, her slender fingers tracing the rim of her wine glass as she surveyed the scene. She was used to this late-night vibe, the glamour of parties, the endless stream of strangers, each one more fleeting than the last. But tonight felt different. Tonight she wasn't just here to lose herself in the music. She was hunting for something more, something that could change her life. A sultry and sexy figure, Olivia had an aura that drew eyes without even trying. Her long, raven black hair cascaded over her bare shoulders, framing a face that could silence a room. Smoky eyes lined with just the right touch of kohl, full lips painted a bold crimson. She exuded an effortless confidence, the kind that came from years of performing in smoky bars and chasing a dream she still believed in. Her body was wrapped in a black, curve-hugging satin dress that shimmered under the dim lights. The plunging neckline revealed just enough to leave an impression, while the slit along the side hinted at long, toned legs that moved with grace. Olivia's style was as commanding as her voice, sultry with an edge of mystery, a performer who knew how to captivate an audience even off stage. But tonight wasn't about the show. It was about finding a way to make her name echo in places far bigger than this club. She took a slow sip of her martini, her eyes scanning the room, searching for that one connection that could turn her into the star she was meant to be. Her eyes flitted over the sea of faces until they landed on him, Dominic Wilder, the hottest music producer in the industry. Sharp suit, a brooding expression, and a reputation for being a genius with a touch of arrogance. He was leaning casually against the DJ booth, scanning the crowd with a detached sort of interest. Olivia's pulse quickened as their eyes met, just for a second. She had heard about him, seen him from a distance at award shows. But tonight, he was here, and so was she. Without a second thought, she downed the rest of her drink and started walking toward him. Dominic noticed her approach but didn't move, his eyes lazily trailing up and down her figure, as if already undressing her in his mind. As she reached him, Olivia flashed him a teasing smile.
Dominic Wilder,
she said, her voice low, sultry.
I'm surprised to see you at a place like this.
He raised an eyebrow, the corner of his mouth lifting slightly.
Should I be somewhere else?
Olivia shrugged, the air between them crackling with unspoken tension.
Just thought a man like you would prefer quieter places.
Dominic's smile grew, and he leaned in closer, his breath warm against her ear.
I like to mix it up sometimes. Keeps things interesting.
Olivia shivered, but she wasn't going to let him have the upper hand. She stepped even closer, her lips brushing his ear as she whispered,
And what are you looking for tonight, Dominic?
He pulled back slightly, locking eyes with her.
Maybe the same thing you are, Olivia Cooper.
Olivia felt a jolt of excitement run through her. He knew her name. She liked that. But before she could respond, Dominic's hand slid around her waist, pulling her closer, and he leaned down to whisper.
One night, no strings. What do you say?
For a split second, Olivia's mind whirled. She knew his type. Charming, dangerous, a man who could make any woman fall for him with just a look. But tonight she didn't care. She wanted something reckless, something wild.
One night,
she agreed, her lips brushing against his. The hotel room was dimly lit, the city skyline twinkling beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows. Olivia stood by the bed, her heart racing as Dominic stalked toward her, his gaze heated, possessive. His hands found her waist again, and before she could say anything, his lips crashed onto hers in a kiss that was nothing short of intoxicating. It was raw, primal, the kind of kiss that made her knees go weak. Dominic's hands roamed over her body, claiming every inch of her as if he had been waiting for this moment for years. Olivia moaned softly against his lips, her own hands tugging at his shirt, desperate to feel his skin. Dominic broke the kiss just long enough to pull his shirt over his head, revealing his toned chest. Olivia's breath hitched as she ran her hands over his muscles, her fingers tracing the lines of his tattoos. He was even more irresistible up close.
God, you're perfect.
She whispered, her voice breathless. Dominic smirked, his hands sliding up her thighs, pulling her closer until she was pressed against him.
You have no idea.
Their lips met again, the kiss deepening as Dominic lowered her onto the bed. His touch was everywhere, igniting a fire in her that she hadn't felt in a long time. It wasn't just lust. It was something more, something that made her feel alive in a way she hadn't before. The morning after should have been awkward, but it wasn't. Olivia woke up wrapped in the sheets, the sunlight streaming through the window. Dominic was already up, leaning against the window with a cup of coffee in hand, his expression unreadable.
Morning.
Olivia murmured, sitting up in bed, the sheet clutched to her chest. Dominic glanced at her, a small smile tugging at his lips.
Morning.
For a moment, they just looked at each other, the weight of the night hanging in the air. It was supposed to be a one-night stand, no strings, but Olivia couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted between them.
Last night was...
She trailed off, unsure how to finish the sentence.
Yeah,
Dominic said, his voice low.
it was.
They didn't talk about it again. Dominic left, and Olivia figured that was the end of it. Just another night in a long string of wild, passionate encounters. But she was wrong. 2 weeks later, Olivia walked into the studio for a meeting with her manager. Her career had been stuck in a rut lately, and they were planning to discuss her next album. What she didn't expect was to see Dominic sitting at the mixing console, headphones around his neck, looking completely at ease. Her heart skipped a beat.
Dominic, what are you doing here?
He looked up at her, his expression unreadable.
I'm producing your next album.
Olivia blinked, her mind racing.
What?
Her manager stepped in, looking thrilled.
It's perfect, Liv. Dominic is one of the best music producers in the industry, and he agreed to work with you. This album could be career-defining.
Olivia's heart pounded in her chest. She couldn't believe this was happening. Working with Dominic? After what had happened between them? This was supposed to be a one-night thing, nothing more. But now they were going to be stuck together for months, making music, seeing each other every day. Dominic's gaze met hers, and for a moment, she saw a flicker of something in his eyes. Something more than just the cool, detached producer. But then it was gone, and he was all business.
Let's get to work.
He said, his voice clipped. The next few weeks were a blur of late-night studio sessions, endless takes, and simmering tension. Every time Olivia walked into the studio, she could feel Dominic's eyes on her, but he kept his distance. He was professional, focused, but there was always an underlying current between them, a heat that neither of them acknowledged. Their conversations were short, clipped, and often laced with passive-aggressive remarks. But underneath it all, the attraction was still there, undeniable and growing stronger with every session. One night after a particularly grueling recording session, Olivia finally snapped. She stormed into the control room, her frustration boiling over.
What is your problem, Dominic?
She demanded, hands on her hips.
You've been distant, cold, and I don't get it. We're supposed to be working together, but you're making it impossible.
Dominic looked up from the mixing console, his expression hard.
You think this is easy for me? Working with you after that night? You think I don't feel anything?
Olivia froze, her heart racing.
What?
He stood up, his eyes blazing with intensity as he walked toward her.
I can't stop thinking about you, Olivia. That night, it wasn't supposed to mean anything, but it did. And now I'm stuck here, trying to act like I don't care when all I want to do is...
Before he could finish, Olivia grabbed him by the collar and pulled him into a kiss. It was desperate, hungry, and filled with all the tension that had been building between them for weeks. Dominic responded instantly, his hands sliding around her waist, pulling her against him. They stumbled back toward the couch, their lips never breaking apart. Dominic's hands roamed over her body, and Olivia moaned softly against his lips, her fingers tangling in his hair.
God, I've wanted this.
He growled against her neck, his breath hot against her skin. Olivia shivered, her body responding to every touch, every kiss.
Me too.
She whispered, her voice breathless. They tumbled onto the couch, their bodies pressed together as Dominic's hands slid under her shirt, his touch igniting a fire in her that she couldn't ignore. Olivia arched against him, her lips trailing down his jawline as he groaned softly in response. The room was filled with the sound of their heavy breathing, the city lights flickering through the windows as they gave in to the passion that had been simmering between them for so long. It wasn't just lust anymore. It was something deeper, something that neither of them could deny. And as they lost themselves in each other, Olivia knew that this was only the beginning. As the morning light filtered through the studio windows, Olivia turned her head slightly, her cheek resting against Dominic's bare chest. The warmth of his skin, the slow rhythm of his heartbeat, and the quiet after the storm of the night before made everything feel surreal. She closed her eyes for a moment, savoring the closeness, but her thoughts drifted to something deeper, something she could only express through music. She looked up at Dominic, her voice soft but steady.
You know, last night, all I could think about was how I feel when you look at me. Like a lyric I've been trying to write forever, but never quite got right.
She paused, her lips brushing his collarbone.
You're the song I didn't know I needed to sing, the harmony I never knew I was missing.
Dominic's grip tightened around her waist, his fingers drawing gentle circles on her back. His voice was low and husky as he responded.
Funny. I've been thinking the same thing.
He leaned in closer, his breath warm against her temple.
You're the rhythm that keeps me grounded, the melody I've been chasing in every song I've ever produced.
Olivia smiled, a soft blush warming her cheeks as her fingers played lazily with his hair.
We're making quite the album, aren't we?
Dominic chuckled, a deep, rich sound that vibrated through her body.
We are. But maybe it's more than just an album.
His hand tilted her chin up, making her meet his eyes.
You've turned every note, every beat into something that's become part of me, Olivia. Like we're composing a love song, one note at a time.
The intensity in his gaze sent a shiver down her spine, and she knew they weren't just talking about music anymore. Olivia kissed him gently, lingering for a moment before pulling back and whispering against his lips.
Then let's finish what we've started, because you're the only track I want to play on repeat.
Dominic's eyes darkened with desire as he pulled her even closer.
And you, Olivia Cooper, are the only song I never want to stop listening to.
Their lips met again, the kiss deeper, filled with a passion that echoed through the silence of the room. This wasn't just the aftermath of a one-night stand. It was the beginning of something powerful, something neither of them could deny any longer. Just like the music they were creating together, their love was building into a crescendo, unstoppable, unforgettable. To make the best music ever together, all they needed was
All You Need Is, a podcast where the heart finds its voice through enchanting romance stories. Join me as we explore the timeless power of love, weaving together tales that spark joy, nostalgia, unspoken desires, a warmth that makes your heart flutter, and the sweet magic of love that transcends time. From the first blush of infatuation to the comfort of lasting connections. Prepare to be swept off your feet as we delve into the intricacies of relationships. Celebrate love in all its forms, and remind you that, at the end of the day, all you need is a Spotify-exclusive podcast conceptualized and created by Nazar Partiwala using 11 Labs.
tune in and let your heart be your guide.